that this is the political perspective with
Yes.
Rand and Reggie. If you are not political, you do not have a perspective. And this week, you kind of have no choice but to be political and to have a perspective, because the events of Charlie Kirk being killed has really touched a lot of different facets of society.
I am uncomfortable calling it an assassination. So I've seen in some channels they're calling it an assassination. I don't know how to feel about that because he was so extreme against my people that calling it assassination seems frankly too respectful. And I don't know if that's just me being jaded because of who I am in my position in this country as Black man in this age bracket. So I don't know how to call it. What do you think?
So I think the first thing we need to kind of pay attention to is how people are framing the motives or the motive of the shooting without really having any information. So they don't have a suspect, they don't have a motive. So how people are even having a conversation about this is from pure speculation. So to even call it politically motivated, to give it any label besides murder, is done in order to make some type of point. Like I said, we don't have any motive, so we don't know really what Charlie Kirk was into, right? He could have had whatever personal issue. He could have maybe owed somebody some money. He could have been in a gang, and I think it's interesting. It's interesting that when a Black person gets killed, they immediately scour through their personal life to try to find some justification, and they're not calling it whatever they're trying to call this thing with Charlie Kirk. So even the president went online and made statements.
Yeah.
Politicians talking about is politically motivated. We don't even know this, and it's interesting. You have to kind of pay attention to how people are even discussing this death, because we don't have a motive. So it may not even be politically motivated.
But
my favorite,
real quick, my favorite form of that when it comes to us is to discount, our demise is, oh, he had whatever in his system. That's the thing they used to go to. I don't see it as much lately, but that was definitely the thing they would go to quick. Like, oh, he had weed in the system, so he's a terrible person. But continue.
Yeah. So if it's proven that it was politically motivated, then I would characterize it as an assassination. I do feel like assassination gives it more of a it makes it almost, it gives it almost too much respect to call it an assassination. I say that because usually like assassination is really kind of reserved for like world leaders, like politicians, like people who could actually like really move the needle in countries and things of that nature. You don't normally characterize that as an assassination, but if it does turn out to be politically motivated, I'm comfortable with calling it assassination. I think that that Charlie Kirk's place kind of in that political sphere of like the white nationalist conservative movement, they certainly would call it that, and they certainly would use that type of language. But one of the things that I've just kind of like processed within the last 24 hours is like people and their responses. And I feel like there are, a couple of like basic responses that most people have is thoughts and prayers for the family. That we don't condone any violence, just on a merit of just being civilized humans. We don't condone any violence. And if you saw the video, it was terrible. It was something that you cannot get out of your head. To watch that and to see, the amount of blood and how quick it was. So, thoughts and prayers to his family. I know he had two small children. He was married, young guy, 31 years old. So that's a response. And then you have a couple of other responses is about whether or not this was something that he deserved. So you have people who say they are extremely happy that he met his demise because of some of his rhetoric. And then you have people on the other side who are extremely upset. And those are normally like the reaction. So I think it's interesting when people say things that are kind of what I feel like is more of a cop out to be able to be as extreme as possible. And they say that, a person should not be killed for their opinion. A person should not be killed because of how they show up in the world. And I think we think about this every week in the sense of we have a responsibility to have a certain behavior when we're even on our very small podcast. We have a sense of responsibility that, we try not to, offend people. We try not to put people in an unfair light. We try to be diplomatic in how we speak about people in these stories and these things that we cover. And we try not to be just cynical and disrespectful when we talk about people. And we understand that the importance of that. But it's just interesting when someone has risen to places like Charlie Kirk has, that they lose that sensibility and that respect for other people. And when you think about some of the things that Charlie Kirk will be remembered by, and I think that outside of someone celebrating someone being killed, I don't think you should do that. But I also think that when we look back at Charlie Kirk, we have to look at his time on Earth in its entirety. We cannot take off of the board what he represented, and his attitude towards Black people.
Better in the 1940s. It was bad. It was evil. But what happened? Something changed. They committed less crimes.
Maybe they were afraid. 4,000 Black men, women, and children were killed in violent lynch mobs.
That's your explanation. But I guess
racial terror permeated American culture for hundreds of years.
Black America is worse than it has been
that affected
in the last 80 years.
The generational psyche of an entire group of people?
No, I'm sure it did. I'm not discounting that. I'm just
towards Muslims, towards the LGBTQ community. He was in my opinion, he was a racist. He was a total racist, a total white supremacist, whose words actually did hurt people. Words did affect people's behaviors. And I'll give you two examples. And the first one actually happened maybe about a week and a half ago. There was a woman that was stabbed to death on the train. She was she's a Ukrainian refugee.
Yes, I saw this. Yeah.
And on Charlie Kirk's podcast, he stated that this woman was stabbed just because she was white. Right. And there's absolutely no evidence of that. There's no evidence that was the motive of this person who clearly had mental health. But to somehow weave race into that and say that that this was the motive without even having any intimate knowledge of the investigation, intimate knowledge of any interviews with the suspect, none of that. To say that it's hurtful and it's inflammatory. And for the people that consume that without any fact check or just any reasoning, they believe these types of things, and they show up in the world having that perspective. Yeah. And the second one was his attitude about DEI and his attitude that it appears that he believes that Black people do not have the ability to achieve great things without DEI. And even his questioning of a black pilot's, his abilities, his credentials, his experience, and he's said it on the record that if he sees a black pilot, he questions whether or not they have the skills to fly this plane. And once again, if you have any type of reasoning, you understand that no one can fake or flunk their way up to being a pilot. Right. I mean, it's a very, very small group of people have ever even flown planes. So if someone is a pilot, you best believe that they have the credentials to fly an airplane. Especially with hundreds of people on board. But to even have that type of attitude that just based on someone's race, you're gonna question their ability, is hurtful. And it creates an environment where people unfortunately show up in the world with that type of attitude. And unfortunately, we live in a world where there is a lot of political violence. But we still have they still have a lot of work to do in order to find out exactly what happened. I think the fact that it was just one single shot and that person was able to get off of a college campus that has a whole bunch of security, a whole bunch of cameras, and they don't have a lot of leads. They have some point of travel. They appear to have found the weapon, but it was a crazy sight, to see that happening, and to know that he took this shot apparently from about 200 yards away.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about, and always put everything into a football perspective, you think of shooting somebody from 2 football fields away, and the type of skills and marksmanship that requires. I mean, this person definitely has some either high level training or was someone who's a gun enthusiast. But we'll have to kind of stay tuned to get any further information on the killer and whether or not he's going to get caught.
I think it's very irresponsible for all of the people, including President Trump, making statements with such limited information that's available about the shooter. I don't get it. Like, there's been bomb threats reported today at universities. And I feel like it's all motivated by what happened to Charlie Kirk. But it's just irresponsible to do these things or make these statements or jump out the window. I know Trump said something about going after extreme leftist groups. Like, you don't know who did this. We have no information. So to jump out the window like this is inflammatory and irresponsible, especially being the quote unquote commander in chief. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I think that Trump has ushered in a level of violence in politics.
Yeah.
He's the person that's, telling the crowd to beat people up.
Yeah.
And his brand of politics, unfortunately, is violent, and the rhetoric is violent, and it's not. We talk about leaders. That's not the sign of a good leader. To put something out there that you don't have any information. And what I think is interesting is they're putting that out there because they know that Charlie Kirk says things that would get people shot. So I mean, they're making an assumption off of his tone, off of his rhetoric, but they have no facts to support this at all.
To support, yeah. I just think it's very unfortunate that that's the thing that's happening, especially ironically, today being September 11th, and the unity, being old, we're all old enough on this podcast to remember September 11th, and I have vivid memories of the unity that was felt amongst all races in this country September 11th. And it's just sad that now with this incident, it's just all over the place. And I don't know. I don't know how we get back to something that resembles unity, even going back to, uh, Obama. I felt like it was respectful discourse. And I feel like we're so far from that, even though that wasn't that long ago. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, they say I read something that says we have the last period in time where we had so much political violence was in the 60s during the civil rights movement, where unfortunately civil rights leaders were being killed left and right. That we haven't had any real large scale political violence really since then. And we are in a very, I'm gonna say, we're in a very interesting place because I don't know if it gets better. I mean, and that's something very difficult to like acknowledge. Like, I don't know if it gets better.
Yeah,
like,
it's tough.
If the president is saying these things, and his followers is gonna just get his followers even more riled up. I'm actually fearful for Kamala Harris, who's supposed to be going on a book tour.
Yeah,
I mean, I
no.
Might try to take a shot at her just as revenge, not even
as revenge.
On, and it's a bad time.
Yeah. I saw that Ben Shapiro had canceled his college appearances moving forward.
Wow.
Yeah, he had some college appearances, and I saw that it was reported that he canceled it. I don't know if it was factually correct, but I saw it was reported that he canceled his upcoming performances, not performances, upcoming appearances at colleges. Yeah. Yeah, that's is anything else on a political perspective, or I mean, was that pretty much?
Yeah, I mean that's probably. I mean the only other thing that I had was senator from Texas wants to strip Ashli Babbitt of her military funeral honors. Now, if you know anything about January 6th, Ashli Babbitt was the sole person that was killed in the Capitol. She went through a window that was broken and tried to breach the Capitol, and one of the Capitol police officers shot and killed her. Since then, she has become a martyr for MAGA. Ironically, how is she a martyr and she physically attempted to breach the Capitol, and the police officer who shot her he was in charge and said he acted within protocol, which makes sense.
Yeah. He told her, chill the fuck out.
Yeah, and she's trying to come into, and you have, as a police officer who's trying to hold the line, you got hundreds of people behind her. Your job is to protect the people inside the Capitol, all of the politicians, all of their aides. And she was shot. But since then, her estate has been awarded a $5 million settlement for a wrongful death settlement that it appears that the Trump administration just gave her the money.
Yeah,
because I don't know how you can even lose a wrongful death lawsuit in that manner. It could not have came to a court proceeding, because how can your death be wrong when you breach the Capitol? No one made you breach the Capitol. It wasn't like you walked through the door. I know that's been an argument, from MAGA, that some people walk through the door. This lady,
she was hard-headed as shit. But the climate of what was going on, and the officer gave her enough warning to chill the fuck out. She just did not chill the fuck out.
Right, but to get back to the story, so the senator from Texas wanted her to be stripped of her
military
honors. And the reason why that's important is because she was buried with military honors. And, you know, there's very strict codes on who should be buried with military honors. And of course, this was, you know, something that went through MAGA. And, you know, he's pushing for that to be overturned. So it's probably going to lose because almost everything the Democrats do right now has a limited opportunity to pass anyway, just because they're not the party that's in power. So, but it's just a story that just kind of lets you know, like, where the climate of the country, that how someone who attempted to break into the Capitol is now a martyr, who has now family is $5 million richer, and has also gotten a military funeral, which comes with military benefits and all of these things. And what she pretty much did was commit a crime and try to break it. So
that's great. That's a great political perspective this week. Everyone out there, give us the comments. Let us know how you feel. Again, I'm still confused on how to categorize, you know, all the things Charlie Kirk. I do think it is unfortunate that, you know, he lost his life with two young, being a father, just relating as a father, having two young kids and losing your life when having I couldn't imagine kids 3 and 1 years old and losing my life, being 31 years old, having a wife. And, you know, I'd be ignorant to not say that, yes, or acknowledge that, yes, the things he said probably largely led to what happened. It's, you know, it's terrible all the way around. But, you know, I don't know. Let us know how you feel.
Thank you for watching this video. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.